Karuna is still a part of the call.
She is not here. I'm just trying to reach her.
Oh, okay. Not a problem. Okay, by the time Karuna joins in, the panelist, I would request you to please kind of introduce yourself, and then we will take the session forward from there. Can we start with Dr. Ankita Singh?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ankita, and I take care of all the business enabling functions for an IT company, CIGNEX Datamatics. And yeah, I think to start with, that should be good.
Sure.
Thanks, Ankita.
Sushil, do you want to just go next?
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, I should. So, good afternoon. All members, as well as particularly to Ashish, Dr. Ankita, and Mr. Tripathi. So, it's always very nice to be with Dr. Ankita. She is one of very close friend of mine. I always love how she express her thoughts on the issues. Uh, I am having approximately 20 plus odd years of experience. I started with plants and then moved to different roles. So overall, 20 plus years of experience have been managing talent coming from different stream, skill sets. So what I have observed, talent itself is most of the time misunderstood. So to begin with, in any of the organization, it is always very important to define talent first. So in today's scenario also, maybe in next 1 hour time, we will try to define first talent and how pandemic has really impacted overall talent management field. So we'll limit with this one. So thanks again for giving this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sushil. Ashish, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi. So thanks for this opportunity. Looking forward to a engaging conversation for next 1 hour, more than that, with Q&A and all. Yes, Sushil, Ankita, they are very close friend, and rest of you will become a friend very soon. So I have 20 years of experience from IT, ITS services industries, and basically from Bhopal, born and brought up over there, did education in Pune, then in Mumbai since last 20 years almost. And yes, so I think session yet to start, so we'll give overview on the talent management, then there'll be a Q&A session, so I look forward for that step. And
Absolutely. Dave, do you just want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Ankita. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you to Murli and the Sheen team for organizing this session and inviting us to be a part of the session. Thank you, Sheen team. My name is Dev Tripathi. I head HR for the research and development area of Glenmark globally. Part of my role, I oversee the entire pharmaceutical development process at Glenmark. I've got about 18 years of experience in consulting prior to this, and then with a large corporate. I look forward to a very healthy discussion today and to learn a lot from everyone.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I think Karuna had gotten disconnected, so I'm just hoping that she's joined back. Karuna, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Sorry about this.
Super.
Technology doesn't support us, so we have to innovate.
Absolutely. Over to you, Karuna. We can take over the session.
Okay. So I missed what was the last conversation that was happening, but I am assuming that we got our speakers introduced.
Yes, we got our speaker introduced, and all of them have mentioned that they're looking for a nice interaction. So you can start with the questions.
Awesome. Lovely. So my name is Karuna Ahuja, for all of you to know, and I am a global HRpreneur. I have been into HR advisory work for last 2 years. Prior to that, since for 15 years, I was in senior HR leadership roles. And very recently, we are launching an amazing program for women entrepreneurs. It's a coaching program. We look forward to support from all of you. So, coming to the conversation for today, which is a beautiful topic that I love myself as well, is talent management, and especially in the pandemic times, what are some changes that we are seeing in organizations? There are a lot of studies that are happening around it, and there are a lot of people, also discussing about it, especially in the HR domain, talking about how talent is getting impacted with the kind of changes that are coming in. So I would like to invite our panelists to a discussion on this topic. So to start with, I would request Dave to talk about some aspects, and I have a question for him to start with. So, there are a lot of efficient ways in the past that hirings have been happening in multiple organizations, but hiring ways and innovative ways of hiring right people continues to be highly important for all of us, even in these times. But what are some trends that you are seeing in your organization or even in other organizations as best practices that are coming up more frequently around talent acquisition topics?
Thank you, Karuna, for that question. The way I have sort of seen the whole landscape of talent acquisition at the time that the pandemic hit, which is, at the onset of April this year, right? I saw a lot of skepticism, a lot of restraint in hiring in the first quarter. If you ask me, a lot of anxiety in the market, especially three things that companies initially started to focus on. One is how can they conserve cash in the business? How can they continue to manufacture and produce so that goods are available wherever possible? And then the whole fear of the unknown, right? And I really believe that that the fear of the unknown really slowed a lot of companies from a talent acquisition perspective. As things started to sort of uh, get uh, a little bit under control in our minds as HR professionals or as business leaders, as to we found a formula how to deal with and still operate in COVID times. We started to then look at what are the areas that we really need to focus on from a talent acquisition. And the second quarter, largely in my view, focused on a lot of replacement talent really in businesses that were still running and that were still healthy enough and not impacted so badly during these times, right? It's around the end of second quarter and the onset of the third quarter is where we're seeing more movement in the market, where companies are now saying, "Hey, this is going to stay. This is a way of life now for the next year or so, right? Let's get started with seeing what business growth would look like, and therefore more than replacement positions, new positions on, right? So that's the story I'm seeing on one end. On the other end, I think about five sectors have sort of continuously been doing well overall in the pandemic, and therefore recruiting activity has sort of been quite all right in these sectors. The pharmaceuticals as a sector, IT and IT products, both IT services and products as sectors, last mile delivery sort of organizations or sector, that particular area, uh, that gaming as a sector. These 4 5 sectors we've seen business sort of boom during the pandemic, and therefore hiring sort of continue or take off, right? Whereas if you take sectors like oil and gas, sectors like construction, steel, their activity has been hampered, and therefore recruiting activity has sort of taken a backseat. And then the third category, the last point is the conglomerates or companies that are fairly cash rich. They have sort of used this opportunity during the pandemic to sort of go out and get talent onboarded, because it is a situation where the supply is high and the demand is low.
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
go on and onboard some great talent during these times to build for the future. So overall, that's what I'm seeing, Karuna.
Amazing. Interesting stuff that's going on. Are you also observing some changes in the hiring processes and assimilation processes of new employees as well?
Yes, I think one of the things that that is sort of forced upon us is this whole aspect of just accepting that an online interview is okay. I worked with organizations that are very technology savvy to organizations that or managers or leaders who are very old school, if you will, and many a times if you said, "Oh, I've done an online interview," they said, "Have you
Wow.
met him?" That sort of changed big time. I mean, take it or leave it. That's the world today, right? In
Wow.
terms of assimilation, also, right? There's the same thing continues. What we've seen is that a lot of, especially in Glenmark, we had a lot of in transition sort of onboarding that was going on during the pandemic at the highest levels. So it's become a normal for people to sort of join the company from your home, get the laptop delivered and then get started with it, right?
Yeah.
So e-induction, e-assimilation, all of that has become a norm.
Very interesting. Sushil, I would invite you to share your thoughts on are you seeing changes in employee hirings process and assimilation as well?
Yes, Karma. See, basically, talent management philosophy rests around attracting right kind of talent and to create work environment which helps in continuing with the organization for a longer term. So unfortunately, this pandemic was taken or maybe seen by the promoter or even big companies. So irrespective of the industry from which sector or size was not mattering at this pandemic period. So now we have already spent or dealt with 8 9 months and we are now used to with this kind of situation. But what I have observed, uh, for promoters and family, this was a great opportunity in terms of shedding their extra weight, extra flesh from their body. Though
Hmm.
unfortunate from employee side because irrespective of level, position, designation, people
Hmm.
are asked to leave the organization. Companies were just concerned about their short term targets without thinking these are the people who have given their so many years of their life, their heart, mind, body, soul, everything was given to the organization, but they focused on the business continuity at any cost. So that was the very negative aspect with the talent management. I
Hmm.
always quote, there is a powerful quote given by Rahim Das ji. So that is the biggest actually irony with HR people also. So sometimes now they have taken seat back. Though there are organizations which are given opportunity to really contribute for the business. So I always quote, Rahiman dekh badan ko, Rahiman dekh badan ko, लघु न दीजे डार जहां काम आवे सुई कहां करे तलवार. So basically Rahim Das ji was referring कि if you have very talented or maybe people sitting at a very top level, so might be you have a philosophy of putting A players into the A role, or maybe you have following differentiated approach towards managing your workforce. So we have seen people, migrant workers, unskilled workmen, or maybe semi-skilled kind of workmen, they were forced to leave office, they were forced to leave factory, their workstations, resulting a kind of chaos in the country. So companies suffered a lot, still struggling. So now the reality is like this. Yes, top leaders are there, but there are no people to execute those tasks. So that was the first thing which I observed, because I am having manufacturing as well as corporate and CSA kind of staff also. So now we are running after those customer care associates, but they are at their native place. Now we are running after operators, tailors, but they are saying, sir, hum apne ghar mein theek hai. We are not interested to again rejoin your company because you didn't care for us in times of challenges, in times of crisis. So now we are satisfied with whatever we are earning at our native place. So that is the second very important aspect. And in future, what I see, the expectations of skill sets are going to be significantly changed. So now entire new kind of skill sets are going to be expected from leaders as well as from managers and frontline sales staff also. So that are the few significant changes which I am observing.
Very interesting observation, Sunil. And I think this was the test of time which showcased that which organizations thought that they were progressive and which were actually very progressive. So there was a lot of shifts, and where the leaders, I personally feel that where the leaders were thinking long term, really will be the ones where in those organizations companies would be doing really well. However, having said that, there were, I do believe that, different kinds of organizations reacted differently to the entire situation. Um, I also see one trend that is coming up very interestingly, where people are being given opportunities to work from home, work remotely, and trends on gig projects seem to be kind of catching up quite a lot in the market. So, Dr. Ankita and Ashish, I would love to have your inputs on this topic. Now, do you see such kind of best practices around gig projects coming up? And how are organizations adopting to work from home, remote policies as well?
Okay, so thanks, Karuna. So gig is just like old wine in new bottle. We have contract worker for many years, since many years, so they are just being kind of replaced with the new world called gig. Some of the things are being added in the gig. Contract has to be kind of used to be, or still many company having. If you look at the IT company, services company, they still have almost 20 to 30% of people on the contract. Yeah, though it is managed by the agencies and vendor, the only thing in the gig, it will be directly managed by the company. And I have seen many companies, they are thinking about the dedicated HR setup for only for the gig employment, gig worker and all. Now imagine, see, in the Western country, even in the Southeast Asia, more than 40 to 50% or up to already the gig worker. They are facing a lot of challenges. It is opportunity also. People are learning much more than the full-time employment, and also so it's good for people. Like simple example, I can take it in the COVID gig community. Uh, they were in the biggest. They were biggest loser. Do you know why? Because they didn't have any kind of social security insurance and all these things, right? So because when you work in company, you have the policy of the social personal accident and all. But gig, no, because you are there for 3 months. You are working only for one project. Then you are going for somewhere else. So it's still government even working on the gig employment law and all. In India, it's catching up fast. All the CHRO and the business leader, CEO, they have gone back to the drawing board and look at, okay, fine, my workforce, what is the population of full-time, part-time? As I said, services company, they are increasing like anything, they need to have now more part-time, which we are saying now gig worker. And how do we get them? Now they are not available everywhere. It cannot be considered as a normal kind of thing, because it has to be more specialized and all this. So it depend upon, nature of business, depend upon the work, depend upon, what is the duration organization is looking for. So it's a good avenue for an organization to save the cost, to save the infrastructure. Only thing, the business and the HR is to develop an ecosystem, policy, processes to ensure that gig worker also taken care of very well. For example, recruitment team, because there are almost 50 type of gig employment available in the market, 50. So imagine talent acquisition team need to have 50 different kind of appointment letter, simply.
Wow.
Right? And when we say gig, it means, okay, now in the virtual, it became more challenging, and it is opportunity for many people also, because you can work from anywhere. Okay, today as a gig worker, I can be recruited, I can recruit gig worker, in Singapore, London, or perhaps in on the corner of India, which is Kerala or Ahmedabad, Jammu Kashmir, Kolkata, right? I do everything online, which is anyway happening for full time. So how do we ensure that each touch point of employee is taken care for a gig also? Gig are considered, what you say, adopted child. So far, that's what I'm hearing from many gig worker, because, most of the benefits are not given to them. Some of the company, they are taking care very well. But still, it's in the early stage, especially in the India.
Interesting. So, Dr. Ankita, what are your views on um, policies changing for people working remotely or even gig projects, and how are organizations adopting to it?
Thanks, Karuna. I think that's going to be the future, and we are all getting ready for that. If you look at the data as well, where we do not have gig workers at more than 40%, that's already projected for next 5 years. But when we talk about people who are working from home, so I think we always have had a categorized system in all the organizations, right? We were working for different generations in different manner. We drafted our policies and processes and initiatives, be it your communication policies or your reward and recognition policy. We always categorize. We always treated, at least for last decade, I can say, though we have started using that one size doesn't fit all. Now one size fits one. We have been talking very rigorously about these things recently, but I think a lot of organizations were already practicing it for a very long time. And same, I would say, is with the policies, processes, and initiatives. We know that tomorrow is going to be more of a hybrid model. So it's not that what you want to do, it's also what all options are available and how much of what we want to take up, depending on the nature of business, depending on the issues that we have, depending on the availability of resources, and at the same time, how we want to take it forward in our business perspective. So both the things, policies, processes, initiatives, anything and everything will definitely get categorized, keeping in mind that there will be few employees who will be sitting in the office throughout the year. There will be few employees who would be in office for some time and working from home. There will be few set of employees who will be completely working from home. And at the same time, gig economy is not only where people get connected to the organization for a short term project, but we are also talking about shared resources, right? Today we can't work for two organizations or three organizations at a time, but tomorrow when we are talking about 2025 or probably much earlier, one individual would be working with three competitive organizations for the projects at the same time. So we are already in the process of drafting policies and ensuring that the data security, anything and everything is taken care of. So yeah, there's no runaway from it. I think people are nowhere confused whether we want to get into it or not. Everybody is busy working on a format or on a strategy where we know that we can fit in well, and we can make a system which is that adaptable, that can change as and when required. Because long term, as you rightly said in the initial discussion, long term is very much needed. But I think pandemic has really shown us one thing, that we came up with set of policies in the month of March, and by the end of May we literally had to revise everything because things had
Yeah.
further changed. So every day is a new day, every month is a new day. So it's always great to have the fundamentals really set well, but at the same time, be it HR or organization as a whole, be it policy or every system of the organization, we should really be nimble and at the same time flexible and adaptable, that the moment it's needed, you do not take much time to make that shift.
Yeah, so I think agility becomes the key in that process.
In fact,
That
Karuna, I still remember the days, still in many company when budget is prepared, they have two sections, contract and full-time employee. Okay. Today still, they may be thinking, okay, gig or full-time employee or many other things, which need to be looked into like this. So work from home, obviously, it has pushed up, okay, gig employment has to be more in the organization. It's good for, organization cost point of view and for individual as well. Some company they already started the exercise for a existing employee. Okay, how many of you want to convert to gig? I have the project which is only for 6 months. It's just like in the IT company, there are the bench resources. They work 3 months in one project, then work somewhere else for another client.
Yeah, and you know what? When I was advising one of the HR tech startups that I'm part of as a board advisor, I remember this that the founder was talking about that they do have shared resources of headcounts where they're working on any other tech startup also. So one resource was employed actually by multiple organizations, and we see that in reality happening now more often with the changing times that have come up. So help me, understand this a little more, Dev and Sushil, from your inputs also. What do you see could be some challenges coming in, especially in the sectors that you are in, when it comes to employees working remotely or in gig kind of projects?
See, Karuna, like Ashish was referring, gig workers were already there in the practice. And
Yeah.
see, if you see the construction industry or take example of designers in fashion industry, so we were the first organization who were using at the time of maybe 20-25 years back, taking help of Manish Malhotra as a designer. So he
Hmm.
was providing design for creating our product or our stuff. We have been regularly using services of external designers or consultants. Earlier, we were referring them as a consultant. Now, a fancy designation or name nomenclature is there that freelance and gig economy, like rightly discussed. So, badli workers, contractual workers, they were already there in the practice. But the significant difference which I observe now, government also has started realizing that these are the reality of the work environment. So
Yes.
now they have to be categorized under certain rules, regulations, and norms, and that is the reason it is being clearly reflected in IR Code 2020. The biggest change in my 20 years of experience in Indian subcontinent, first time I am observing even HR heads are being hired. So recently saw 2-3 ad there. So they were hired on contractual basis. So now country has started realizing yes, there are jobs which can be outsourced, and why not begin with HR itself? So you talked about shared services. It were there in the industry, business HR partner, strategic HR partner, shared services, or center of expertise. What I feel predominantly how Indian HR practitioners, they take a lot of inputs from IT, ITS, or banking or non-banking industry. They have their business model which is very much suited with working from home or working from moon also. But if you are making something, it might happen that you are creating product in Gujarat, or maybe you are creating product in Ahmedabad or wherever you want to make. But finally, people has to be there. Otherwise, how you are going to make product? So hybrid model again, it is going to be that in dominance or to be discussed in this kind of session. But I feel organizations, most of the organization has lost biggest opportunity in terms of getting closely associated with employee or managing their people was psychological connect, psychological safety. Now employees have realized, promoters or maybe even Reliance or all big companies, they are concerned about their profitability, they are concerned about their top line, and they are very clear. Boss, we are not here to serve social cause. We are here for certain objectives which is related with profitability. So employees also have started this kind of feeling कि क्यों हम अपना सब कुछ इनको दे रहे हैं. Now they have also started looking for green land, green pasture. So life of HR heads or managers are going to be very challenging because the trust, the core foundation which was there, it has shaken very badly. Hardly 2 3 organizations are there. I don't know about much about ITS industries because yes, they can work from their home, so they have been paying, they have been taking care of their staff. But again, Accenture kind of big Cognizant was big organization which laid off more than 20,000 plus staff. So that is the biggest challenge. To retain people for longer term is going to be very
Yeah.
challenging.
So I think the stickiness gets impacted because of the shifts that we are seeing. So Dave, would love to hear your views on the fact that we do see that working remotely, gig projects, all of these things are the future of things. And of course, with pandemic, things have become pretty. Things have shifted from a point of view that organizations are also struggling to survive. A lot of them are struggling to survive. Um, so the stickiness and retention of employees, of course, is getting impacted as well. While we work remotely, what could be some trends or best practices or some ideas that you might have, which you could share with us about, which could help us, create more stickiness of employees in the organization?
Thanks, Karuna. I think Dr. Ankita, Ashish, and Sushil have sort of um, given a lot of insights about
Yeah.
this topic already. So I'm going to sort of move slightly away from this and sort of look at this from two lenses really at the core. You know, at one level, I feel that all of this emanates or is a manifestation of one core tenet, that is flexibility, right? As a value proposition that employers are wanting to provide to folks that are being associated with them, whether it's permanent employees, whether it's gig workers or temp employees, or whatever that be, right? The core tenet is flexibility. And I'm a big believer that there is a connection between how the society emerges and how organizations sort of adapt to it, right? I really believe that the whole movement around nuclear families, right, had to sort of lend itself into an environment which will sort of demand flexibility. One of Korn Ferry's studies in terms of what people are looking for in companies as a value proposition, right, is around 3 days. You know, what were people looking at 5 years earlier? What were people looking now? And what are people looking at 5 years later? Right?
Yeah.
And the biggest shift that you will see is from employer branding to benefits to compensation as the 5 year later projection, and this is the 2018 sort of study. So they were projecting about 2023, saying flexibility will become the um, number one factor in terms of people sort of choosing what they want to, especially in my area of pharmaceuticals, right? If you go to the East Coast in the US, it's already a norm where you are just sort of coming into work for a couple of days and then you're working from home for the other 3 days, and that's become the lifestyle, really, right? And this pandemic is going to fast forward a lot of that socio-organizational context, if you ask me. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is the business itself, right? Like both Dr. Ankita and Sushil sort of spoke about, is that your affordability in the business, and if you are, how can you create different uh, uh, sort of interventions where manpower cost is about 50% of your overall operating cost or 40% of your overall operating cost. What levers do you really have loosen that a little bit and create some more space, right? And all of these uh, manifestations are tying in really well between what the how you can create a little bit of leverage there, as well as how can you conform to where the society sort of lend itself to. So that's the combination, and that's the first part of what I wanted to speak about. The second part, specifically, what you sort of said is how do you make it more inclusive? How do you get them sort of to feel a part of the mission, part of the purpose that you are sort of
Yeah,
associated with as a business, right?
that
Uh,
stickiness. How do you create that stickiness with the
Absolutely.
organization? Yeah.
So I think again one of the things is the biggest example, for example, of some of this manifestation. Like again, I'm not going into gig or what form it
Yeah.
is, but this manifestation per se. There are proven models with Uber, Ola, right? While financial gain is a big hook that they've used as as a value proposition to create inclusion, to create affiliation, if you will, right? Uh, each industry will find its own way. Like for example, Sushil was talking about how you can empower a segment of skilled workers to sort of be associated with you over others, right? And there are different uh, uh, sets of levers that you can work with in different sort of businesses. I would say it's more business specific. At the end of the day, the basic contractual relationship is an economic relationship, if you will, right? Once you figured that out, and that is a win-win, you can top it up with other softer sort of toppings, if you will, to sort of make it stronger.
Interesting, interesting. A very different perspective to the conversation, and I do believe that when employees join organizations, one of the things that they look for, and if you look at research also, they want growth. They want. Sushil also mentioned about that emotional connection or psychological safety as well. So, what are organizations doing to build on learning practices specifically in the new age when technology is going to play a huge role in the work that we are doing? So, Dr. Ankita, Ashish, I invite you to share your views on this.
Okay, so we all know what data says about the learning and development, reskilling, upskilling, relearning, unlearning. Most of the organization where research is done, people have spoken to CEO and leadership. It says that more than 40 to 50% people need to be reskilled and upskilled. We all know that, including ourselves. Yeah. Okay. And then this virtual working, remote working, work from home, it has brought so many different kind of initiative, collaboration tool and everything. Employer are changing their business model. So whereas employee also need to ensure that we are aligned with the business model related to the skills, related to the capabilities what we are looking for. So before learning and development, we talk about it. One win, what, because see, it was new for everyone, not only for employee. We always keep saying okay, employee should be taken care. Now who's interacting with the employee? It's the manager and leadership. Are we taking care of them first of all? That's one of the most important, because we always we can say okay, employee should be taken care, when he get up in the morning, so many calls should not be scheduled and all this, and learning and development has to be taken on the priorities. How do we achieve 40 to 60%, 40 to 60 hours of the training? I think it's going more than 100 or 200 nowadays, right? Okay. Yeah. So beside that, today leadership and CEO is after chief learning officer, L&D head, perhaps the CHRO who's managing this role. That okay, guys, which kind of tools you have, which kind of collaboration tools you have, which kind of communication tool you have, so that I can get the data, I can get to know what people are doing. Okay, what they are doing virtually, what they are doing remote working and all. right? That's one of the thing, you know, in the services industries, IT industries, but yes, everybody is not working from home, so it's common for them, but still productivity is one of the big issue. In terms of learning and development, what are the things is happening? Like Coursera and other players, Skillsoft and all, Coursera, some total, sorry, you know, uh, they got so many query to implement their application, their tools in the organization, right? Today, when we were struggling, especially the HR people, okay, guys, I'm implementing HRMS and there's a 3 month of change management project. Okay, how you are going to learn how the HRMS works. Today, we don't have or we didn't have that much time to ensure that, you know, people are educated how the tools work. I think from the day one, everybody's gotten the tool. It's just like, you know, we get the mobile and we see, okay, how do I learn how to operate? And the second day you became a master. So that's how it is happening. Self learning is one of the biggest thing, you know, we all need to ensure that we are doing always. We are spending more than, you know, perhaps 20, 30, 40% of the time in the self learning. Virtually everything is accessible thanks to not the COVID, but thanks to the government, thanks to the infrastructure, where, you know, I haven't faced single time that Wi-Fi was down other than the electricity, right? If there is no electricity, Wi-Fi is anyway down. So I think this has not disturb our business operation also. Uh, Enough opportunity for people to relearn, unlearn, depend upon where employee is going, depend upon, you know, what are the business objective now. There are many things which is changing. As I said, employer also changing business model. Employee also need to ensure that, you know, they are being uh, developed for tomorrow, or perhaps, you know, because everything is moving so fast, you know, different kind of learning initiative which is happening, maybe sometime on learning and all, and attention span on online learning is very less, you know. I think it used to be earlier, we used to say attention span some 10 minutes. Today I think it has come down to only 3 minutes.
2 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, so how do we ensure that, you know, when you design a program, okay, that people are glued to the laptop or glued to the mobile? That's the biggest learning for the, you know, learning and development professional. uh, Obviously, you know, people are everywhere now. Even for example, you know, how do we take care of the new joiner? That's also one of the, you know, biggest challenges for HR and learning and development team. Okay, if I need to do the induction for them, how do I ensure I get all the HODs together and make it more interactive? Like gamification is one of the things which we need to think about. So many of the things were already in the pipeline. We were denying all this, which has taken place. Some of the organizations, they are still doing. Some of the organizations, they are still, you know, planning to do that. Budget is being changed. Most of the HR budget is going into learning and development now.
Very nice. Dr. Ankita, would you like to share your views on what best practices that you're seeing around?
I think because of pandemic, it's not that it was not there earlier. We've been talking about impact of technology on rest of the world, and we have been talking about VUCA world for
Yes,
such a long time. It's just that now we have evidently witnessed it. It's right
so
there. We
true.
actually
Yeah,
experienced what do we mean by VUCA, and pace at which things are changing is so very dramatic. Nothing is under our control. So I'm sure when we all were doing our MBA, we used to use one phrase, right? You have to be jack of all and master of none. I think this is a phase where each one of us has realized that it's not that definitely there's no harm in being a jack of all, but at the same time, you have to be master of one or probably master of few, because the constant change, when we keep defining the next 10 skill sets that would be needed, or future of skill sets, or skill sets of future of work, all these things, if you look at yearly data, it is so very different every year. So that
yes.
itself defines that whatever we are doing now, or whatever we are doing now, no matter how what level we achieve, if at all we become an expert, there is a very high probability that next year it won't stand anywhere. So my take is, I think organizations have realized that you can't create experts, but you have to work on renewable resources, right? And that's the reason gig economy also helps, because wherever you want to plug and play, you know where to get people from. But at the same time, every organization will have core set of workforce, and that has to be treated in a way that whenever there is a change, they also get upgraded, like Ashish very beautifully mentioned, be it upskilling, reskilling, or learning, relearning, whatever you name it. You have to ensure that your workforce is ready. And to summarize this point or to answer, I would say digital is the answer, because earlier there was a constraint when we said that, you know what, this is the training program, 80% attendance is must. Thanks to digital technology and at the same time mobile, where you have everything right on your handset. It's not that when I want, you sit and do a program, but it's clearly told that this is the need of the organization. This is how it will elevate you in terms of your personal development. This is how it will help your profile. This will help the organization as well. But this is the time frame. Whenever you get time, whenever you have that peace of mind and you would actually want to cover this, do that. So that balance, that flexibility, that culture of self-learning, all these things have been, really planned well in the organizations, and that training has become the mainstream. I don't think anybody would shy away from accepting that, and that's going to be the future. People know that things are changing, and the only mode median, whatever you may call it, to take that route is just keep playing around with the options, but ensure that your players are updated. They know what game they are participating in, what are the new rules, and that's what L&D is doing.
I love the way you put it. That whatever you're using, just go ahead. But at least your players who are part of it should know what direction they are going into. Because with technology, there is so much of information download that sometimes our employees or uh, project workers with us might just feel so overwhelmed with that entire aspect.
In
And with
fact, Aruna, some of the analogy, see, we always talk about the corporate, so we are in corporate, we have luxury, or perhaps, we say we face more challenges. Now look at other industries, some of the analogy I can say, in the society, how people have learned and unlearned to have a get together, which used to be in person, people are gathering on the Zoom, right? On
yes,
the festival and occasion, how the university preparing their all the staff, which is teacher and professor, ki bas, you also need to know how to teach online.
we've attended marriages on technology,
Yeah,
Zoom
there are many
platforms.
things happening. So we are adopting this thing very fast, other than the corporate. And when it comes to corporate, we keep cribbing about ki employee doesn't know, manager doesn't know, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that brings us to a very important point of employees at times not being clear about what are some responsibilities that they might have, roles that they need to play, which are also changing. So organizations also have a role to play here, that they need to become agile as fast as possible to be able to communicate the changing expectations that companies have from the employees now or the project workers now, which means that the leaders as well as the employees, all of them, or even gig workers, whatever contractual workers, they all need to be reskilled. Some of them, one of the studies I was reading by McKinsey talked about that there are three important areas which organizations need to work on in terms of reskilling. One, digital capability of employees, which also means that virtual platforms being used for communicating with employees. Also remote team management, which means that our leaders need to know that employees who are in different locations, how do you kind of keep them binded to being part of the team, that feeling of still being part of the team even though you're alone working out of your home. The third aspect was about cultural sensitivities that need more focus, because all organizations cultures are different. So from that angle, how do you kind of build up on cultural sensitivities also, now with the fact of people being in different places, Um, Another challenge that might come up for business leaders or HR people could be in terms of managing performances. So, Dev, Sushil, would love to hear your views on what are some best practices that we are seeing that are coming up where HR needs to focus on building performance management practices which are much more robust. All these times till now, till pre-COVID times, we always used to talk about performance management practices, and we always found a gap there. Even being an HR person, I experienced that myself. So now in these times when people are in report locations, I'm sure there is a larger gap. So what are some practices that we're seeing around that? Sushil, Dev, would love to have your inputs on that.
Karuna, what I feel and have experienced, entire performance management used to center around one word, key result areas. Now it has actually translated into क्यों रखा जाए आपको. So
Okay.
now even promoters, even we HR people, and even employees, they have been thrown into this situation where their core existence are being questioned by pandemic. So why you exist? What is the purpose of being into the organization? What are the values you are going to offer? So goal set, which was initial or the first step of any PMS process, that has actually ceased to exist, because if you have no control on goals, how you are going to measure that? So earlier, there were two kind of approaches in managing performance. One kind of people were focusing on quantitative things, so pure on numbers, targets, sales figures, values, volumes. So now it is not there because it is not in your control. So the biggest and why part, which was missing earlier due to any reasons, might be XYZ reasons or business exigency. So qualitative aspects. So whether people are in the home for 8 or 30 minutes, but still might be he is coordinating with the prospective employees, whether he is making required calls, whether he is attending meetings, whether he is planning. So that kind of aspects has suddenly taken front seat. So now people have started realizing the importance of intangibles. So what I feel, yes, continuous feedback, continuous communication, all these things were into discussion maybe from last 4 or 5 years, but it has taken front seat. So how it is converted into overall best practices into PMS. So now we have really become flexible in terms of now promoters are ready to revise their targets. So that is a compulsion. So then now they have started evaluating the efforts put in achieving certain things. So with the help of online tools, so continuous feedback, yes, it is available 24 by 7, maybe through WhatsApp or maybe Zoom or MS or Google Talk. So what I feel, more and more communication has started happening, which was the biggest and the major source for failure in PMS system. Earlier, it was related with timeline, 6 monthly, quarterly, or year kind of activity or ritual. Now it has become regular, continuous observation, continuous interaction, continuous feedback. Even CMD is interacting on weekly basis, 15 days. So everyone is getting aligned towards that communication, trust factor, trying to repose that so that a better alignment is ensured there. And yes, intangibles are also getting measured. So these are few things which are going to be, I think, new normal in future. So the importance of intangibles has been recognized, appreciated by everyone. So that is the great contribution of pandemic. So how I perceive this entire issue.
Very
Yes.
interesting. Thank you, Sushil, for your input. Dev, what are your views on this?
Even before the pandemic struck us, right? There are a lot of organizations, especially sunrise sector organizations, who had sort of embraced work from home flexibility in a big way, right? There was always an ongoing debate whether Accenture is right or IBM is right. When IBM came back and said that remote working doesn't really work for us as a business model, or what that is, right? But I think at the core of all of that were two HR processes that were embedded. One was organization design, and other is performance management, right? And one couldn't look at each one separately. If you really ask me, that the core narrative at that point was, how do you ensure that your organization is designed for performance in this kind of a setup, and therefore what kind of culture that you want to drive. And CHROs literally were sweating about creating that, uh, uh, came the whole network organization, and then a different need for going away from bell curve and having a different way of doing performance management itself. Both led to each other, if you really ask me. And I think if you ask me post pandemic, one of the areas that CHROs really needed to focus on from day one, to see that this is going to go for long, is to focus around how do you create uh, an environment where you can manage, which is called management by results. How can you get the organization to focus on giving you results through processes that actually lead to it, right? And that requires both the design as well as performance management and culture as a third tenet, if you ask me. uh, I'm not going to go into what you want to do with the org design aspect or the culture aspect, but focusing specifically on performance, I think a couple of things that Sushil said is very, very relevant. One is a rolling target or a rolling goal setting process. Uh, Goals are being reviewed more frequently than earlier, right? And I think everyone, more and more we're seeing, when we are making this process collective, the results are a lot better. um, and then the second aspect is essentially around, gone are the media conversations and the conversations that happened at the year end. They still happen, but I've seen a lot of focus around the monthly check-ins around leaders and what outcomes that their teams are sort of giving. And so the combination of a rolling goal setting process and a much uh, uh, higher frequency check-in is something that's coming out at the core of performance management when you're talking about management by results.
Very interesting. Dr. Ankita, Ashish, what would your views be on this?
Sorry, this is about the culture we are talking about, right?
Performance management.
Yeah, performance management culture. Yeah, so I think because some of them, they have already moved into from yearly to half yearly. Some of them thinking about the quarterly. In India, performance appraisal considered kind of lollipop, because still company is giving good amount of increment. If you look at the Western world, if you look at other countries, increment percentage is not more than even 5%. Okay, and 5% we talk about the average performer should get. Good performer, outstanding performer should get much more than that. I think that's why people are more interested about the PMS. The day we disassociate increment with the performance management, increment with the performance evaluation, I think that day people will really get into, okay, boss, what I'm doing, am I being recognized? Am I being rewarded on the daily basis, weekly basis, quarterly basis, or not? I'm getting salary, that is sufficient. I mean, that's the thought process, Western country has it, because uh, our performance management system is connected to the huge amount of variable pay as well, so that people continue to stay till end of the year, right? Yeah, so there are a lot of lollipop and all these things. One is key commercial, one is a monetary part, second is non-monetary. And that's why the moment you disassociate with the monetary thing, it will easily, we will come up with some different or new mechanism. Okay, how do I work on now? How do I take care of the employee performance, what somebody is doing on daily basis, weekly basis, and monthly basis? There has to be proper system in the place. There has to be collaboration tool. There has to be communication tool, how people are doing. Before that, nowadays company is struggling. How do I understand the productivity, what people are doing remotely? Yeah, that's one of the things people are saying, okay, I don't know whether somebody is really working. So trust factor come in the picture, okay, fine. It's okay, remote working or office working, it doesn't matter for me. I have given you the job, just look into this. So do we have ecosystem, do we have mechanism system to take care, okay, I have given work to one person, to team, as a manager, as a boss, can I get the data, okay, I can say, yes, they have done the work. They have done outstanding level, average level, good level. And then team can decide, then HOD can decide how do I reward.
Interesting.
Interesting.
So, Dr. Ankita, are you seeing some trends in your organization regarding how management, performance management happening?
I think yes, a lot of people have adopted to new system, and again, I would say even with respect to processes like appraisal, increment, or promotion,
Yeah.
people are going ahead with a mixed bag where it's not a clear cut or a linear defined line for all the performers, or like we used to define a definite percentage, that this
Yes.
is the percentage which is given to the entire organization or team wise, or depending on the criticality of the team, or the revenue generation. Those were the norms, and I think in few organizations, and or I would say a percentage of it still exists, but now people are much more concerned about ROI, like we spoke about gig economy. So when you have people on short term basis, you won't mind giving them really high if the rate card is not getting impacted
Mm.
with the clients they are working with. But at the same time, if at all you have a full timer who's working with you, and he or she is going to be there throughout the tenure, and you have to invest in their learning and development, and at the same time you have to plan their growth chart, you know that they are relevant and their role will thoroughly be required, probably you will treat them in a different manner. So again, like my point number one, I think we are way ahead of the systems that we used to follow, where things were very clearly defined, and we used to say that this is the policy, this is the process, and we will stick to it. Now it's purely as per the need of the organization, and at the same time where we are standing. When we are talking about the individual, it is about his or her performance, it's about the value individual brings in, it's about the contribution, the kind of contribution that individual is making, and what kind of ROI we are generating. So you would find in a system, when appraisal is not done for the entire organization, there will always be set of 7% or 8% people who will be treated really well, and they will still end up getting 110%. And there would be time when everybody is getting a great increment, but there are set of people who will not get any increment. So that's I think that's the trend,
Interesting. I think Dr. Ankita's network might have had some issues. So
No,
while she gets
maybe
back,
Karuna, time will come when it will be more on point basis. Today, like there are the system, there are the some tools and the sites where you do something, you get some point, and your point is being accumulated and all, right? So those time will come in where self discipline, self management, self learning, everything will be taken care of. Individual need to ensure that something is recorded which he has done it, and manager need to ensure that somebody looked into. So I think collaboration tool will be the key to ensure that
very,
how
very
do I look
great
at
to
the
look at and
performance.
consider this. Actually, it could be,
but
and I don't think we are very far away in times when something like that might just come up. We just lost your, connection with Dr. Ankita, I think, but she's back right now. But what you were talking about made a lot of sense in terms of performance management and things, that you're seeing right now happening. So coming to role of HR, Sushil, Dave, Dr. Ankita, Ashish, anybody of you could answer this. How are you seeing the role of HR changing? We of course, need to be as HR professionals much more agile and flexible. But what are some other things that you feel that as an HR person you would see shifts happening in the role of the responsibilities of HR?
See, Karuna, though on lighter mode I had quoted क्यों रखा जाए आपको, but one thing I have realized, earlier HR people might be in terms of distributing PMS seat or then calibrating with numbers. So they were supposed to be a kind of king in the organization. That is the reason you will find HR people project themselves like a different species. But now pandemic has at least made it very important for them also to justify their role with the direct contribution to the business. So when I say direct contribution, whatever wage bill is there in terms of whether it is direct cost, indirect cost, or maybe anything related with employee. So whether it is IT, there more than 50-60% of revenue goes into salary and other benefits. So now it will be definitely scrutinized. Whatever initiatives, whatever task allocations is proposed for approval from the top management, it will be scrutinized. So like for L&D professionals in HR field, their job is going to be the most difficult and challenging in times to come, because now everything is available on free of cost. So a lot of free webinars, free courses, everything is available free. So then naturally promoter will ask, भाई जब सब free में है तो why you are asking for budget for training and development? So that is again going to happen. And most interesting part, even now they can be put on a kind of project kind of role. So okay, now if you are supposed to perform X activity, please finish it in 6 months, then you will be getting this salary. If you are not able to complete, then your job assignment contract can be taken to the existence level. Whether you exist or not, it will be taken after evaluation. So that is the biggest challenge. So HR has to that be a part of real business. No business partner, no strategic partner. HR has to be in business. When I say business, so he has to understand business, from where money is coming, how he or she can contribute for the company. Might be in future, even promoter or the CEO of the company can ask, okay, you start acting like a consultant, you offer consulting services to unrelated industry. So competitor can exist in similar industry, but if I'm good in transforming, like you said, you are consulting to the different organizations, so that's where you can add value to the company. So that can happen. So I'm not sure whether it is going to happen or not, but it can happen. So like it happens with professors in IIMs. So their salary depends on their project, their salary depends on their book publication, research publication, and then they are rewarded in the organization. So that can happen with HR also in the future.
Interesting, very interesting. I really find it very, very insightful. So, Dev, Ashish, Dr. Ankita, would you have any views on how do you see the role of HR changing?
Yeah. So,
Go
Karuna,
ahead, Ashish.
Yes,
Go
yes,
ahead,
yes.
Ashish, go ahead. I think.
okay. So yes, role of HR, in terms of COVID and during the COVID, post-COVID, everything is changed. HR is no more HR. It became a kind of, just as a, I would say, manager. Okay, HR doing not only HR, but HR doing, less than HR, more than HR, and beyond HR, right? HR is doing admin role, HR doing IT role, HR doing infrastructure role also in most of the companies, correct? Because this is the time for the survival where, there is no defined role where somebody has to do it, and if you don't do it, then nobody will do it. Somebody has to come forward, and HR has taken a lot of responsibility during the COVID. So work from home policies, like earlier we used to have work from home policy, which was not actually disclosed to many. It was disclosed to only the leadership, and leadership used to take a call, fine, only 2 people can work from home. Okay. And when it actually started, a lot of HR people, they were asking, okay, please share the policy. Today it became a reality, and there are many more policy, like, for example, I was telling you, okay, do we have 50 appointment letter for the gig workforce today? Yes, then you can recruit a lot of gig workforce. Do we have proper onboarding, virtual onboarding? Do we have touch point virtually for each and every employee to take care? Okay, be it engagement, be it experience, employee experience we talk about, be it exit experience. Some of my friends you must have come across where they are recruited virtually, they have exited virtually, they haven't seen the office actually, right? So while in the entire process, what are we doing in terms of culture? Okay, what are we doing in terms of compliances? What are the data security, data protection, data privacy, and all those things? I'm talking about the employee data here. Those need to be taken care. Recently, there was a article that one of the company, I forget the company, it is the bank, I believe it's in the Southeast Asia. They have defined one role for two people. Okay, now it has a many meaning, that you are retaining one more person in the organization instead of taking them. Okay, or you are you are reworking on the budget and all. So these are the things, like simple example, it may be very small. While everybody is working from home, Karuna, there, Ankita, and Sushil, do we need to have a conveyance allowances because people not traveling? That's one of the things. Do we need to have food coupon allowances or food coupon in our salary breakup? A small thing, people are thinking, okay, how do I go back to drawing board and look at, okay, can I do some changes here? So those are the things. Collaboration tool, learning tool, HRMS tool, which the company didn't have. They are implementing very fast, very fast. This was the moment actually, we were all looking for in terms of employee engagement and employee connect. Manager and we ourselves or CHRO used to say, do you know how many people there in the employee family? I think today all of us know how many people there in each and every employee family. Because when employee log in, we see who are there in front of employee or behind the employee. There are a lot of engagement activity we have done for the family only, family member, right?
Yeah.
So those are the initiative taking place. Company, they are very good in terms of retaining employee. There are very many few industries they are doing well, so there are no issues. Industry which are not doing, they are thinking, okay, they will do well. They are able to retain the jobs. They have cut down the salary, okay, with an innovative way, not paying perhaps, bonuses or, giving a lot of promotion. I have seen one of the innovative thing, company giving a lot of promotion, but no increment, variable pay cut down. So these are the innovative way where, individual being taken care, automation, digitalization, those things are taken care, business restructure happening, HR budget, earlier used to be reviewed within a 6 month or within a year. Today, I think we are going monthly basis and see okay, where we can look at okay, where we can cut down the cost, where we can do the prioritization of the work. Uh, we are in year end. Another interesting thing, what we are doing in terms of the leave balance. If many employees having a lot of leave balance because they were working from home, they didn't take the leave because these are the things related with the cost also, right? Finance guys also coming saying, guys, people working from home, how do I pay you on leave encashment now, right? Uh, One of the thing about the work from home related to the women's also, we need to ensure that they are also being taken care. A lot of we have seen the violence as cases being increase and all. How do I ensuring okay, when we reopen or where this continue that they are continuing the job and all. Yeah, so I will pause here as of now, let other two give the
Very,
input.
very interesting points that you brought up. And I think, Ashish, that gives me a cue to another question that I might have for you, Dev, and for Dr. Ankita. Um, because of the fact that we have so many employees that are working out of their homes, there are so many social challenges or family related challenges also that people are going through. uh, One side we have an opportunity where there is more inclusion that we can create because we can hire more talent pool. We can hire women who want to get back to work, give them second careers, or we can have people from PWD backgrounds and LGBTQ backgrounds who can come and join us also. As an organization, we could become promoters of inclusion. What are some would come in because of the changes that we are seeing? What could be these for example, Ashish mentioned about domestic violence issues going up. What are those organizations doing about it, so that we can ensure that there is more inclusion every time at all places? I hope you got my question. It was a long one, but just to kind of summarize it, we know that inclusion is important for our organizations. We are ready to hire from different talent pools also, but how are we making sure that we are keeping them psychologically safe? What are some organizations doing about it?
So one of the things that have come to the fore from the time that the pandemic has sort of started, right, and taken center stage as a some function in HR is this whole aspect of well-being, right? Whether we look at well-being at the self level, or whether at the social level, or whether we look into the purpose mission that people have, right? This area is come in as one of the real challenges for CHROs and HR teams to sort of not look at it as a few programs and a few helplines that existed earlier, but a more scientific thought through rollout as an HR offering to employees. I think that is a shift that we are seeing in different organizations, including mine, right? When for the first time in our organization, we articulated what really means as the whole philosophy around well-being, and what areas that we are going to focus on, and what are these avenues that are going to be available for people. Mental health, domestic violence were stuff that we were dealing with in any ways, maybe not at the frequency that the work from home is sort of facilitated now, but these are stuff that we were dealing with. We had set mechanisms when a case or other is reported. How do you work through each one of them are unique, and you find a bespoke sort of a way to sort of work with your employee in terms of providing support and strength during those times, right? But the whole aspect of taking well-being and making a rollout of well-being as an offering, right, is the trend that you are seeing. I'll share a very interesting perspective that happened at Glenmark, and this is the second quarter, the first quarter being the April, and somewhere uh, mid of first quarter and mid of second quarter, we were sort of at the R&D working on a drug called favipiravir. That was the first approval for a drug to be used for mild to moderate cases of coronavirus treatment. And I suddenly there was this whole concept of well-being, the purpose concept of it, right, played so high among the teams that were working, the R&D scientists who were working behind this drug, and the clinicians who were working behind this drug, that you're not looking at compensation related incentives, you're not looking at anything. The underlying statement that everyone of these 100 scientists who essentially got involved in this project was that this is why we went to pharmacy school, right? To do something for India at a time that there is no drug that is available, to make sure the drug is out in the market at the fastest, right? Now, these are things that the pandemic gives you an opportunity to do, where you can work with the science. But as HR professionals, uh, all our job was to make sure we communicate, we make sure that the feeling of camaraderie is right there. We are there in the R&D labs at the heart of Mumbai, where our scientists are coming at the peak of the pandemic. Getting your admin teams, getting your EHS teams, getting your uh, IT teams and HR teams to work together, so that in real sense you give an employee experience to employees in during these times, right? So much of that for us structurally fits into that whole well-being aspect, right? We are all aware that in cities like Mumbai, people live in small houses. There is a constraint of space. Every time you want one part of the house is blocked with a laptop or a desktop and camera, people can't move behind, are actual issues. And to which one the second aspects apart from well-being is how do you bring in empathy in your policy making, right? Is a big area for us in HR in Glenmark, right? Every time we look at a policy, we sort of look at it that does it pass through the lens of empathy. For example, announcing that anticipating that the pandemic is going to run and we are not going to be opening offices for the next 3 months works very well for a lot of youngsters who can sort of go back to their hometown and sort of plan for what it is, right? Especially in brick and mortar sectors like ours, that predictability really helps. So this empathy aspect is a key aspect that I believe that all HR professionals, when they are looking at policy designs and where there are not strong monetary implications, should always focus on.
Karuna, are you there?
She's on mute, I believe.
Oh. Let's just wait for a couple of minutes for her to join again. Karuna, can you hear me?
Let her join. So let's continue. Yeah. I don't know how much time we have now.
Actually, we don't have much time now. It's already 5:30.
Okay.
So we are yeah.
Only one disagreement, on the well-being part, not to the their point or anyone. Please don't think like this. How long we are going to think about the well-being and this mental and other things? See, I mean, most of the time we are saying okay, which means are we saying that everybody became a patient in the COVID? No, that's not the point actually, right? Yeah, you can be unwell only for 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days maximum. I think their point is more related with okay, can we create a virtual infrastructure so that people are being taken care of, those who are not in a proper infrastructure, which means working from home and all. I have seen there one company, they are associated with the hotels, hotel 4-star, 3-star, and we work where employee can go to those places and can work. People like you said about the small places where people are staying. We know, I'm from Mumbai, so I know this. So that's how companies are thinking.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, she's there now. Yeah.
Sorry, I have some issue with unmuting myself, but I've joined in from another audio, so hopefully you can hear me. So thank you so much for so much of inputs that all of you have been given in. I wanted to also ask about, related to especially Dr. Ankit was saying, from last input point of view, from a diversity and inclusion aspect, a lot of us now have a huge amount of talent pool that is available. So from a trend point of view, from benchmark best practices point of view, what are organizations making plans around when it comes to diversity and inclusion?
Karuna, a very valid question. I think obviously the sector which is not explored, or the section that is not explored, or if at all they are not getting enough opportunities, I think we should be focusing on them differently. But if I talk about my personal experience or my organization, and I know a lot of many other organizations who have been focusing more on inclusion and diversity. So can't be generalized. I think because the talent pool is available right there, and great people, they are being hired. And the best part, I mean, the trend that I would want to highlight is that we have stopped differentiating. We have stopped talking about who all are there. We have stopped talking about genders, where now when we talk about organizations, I think everybody is treated as individuals. We have all gender neutral policies. We we have systems which are more standardized yet personalized. So that's the current trend, and I think that's there to stay. With respect to because a lot of organizations are proactively and sensitively, they are working on a percentage. So you would find a couple of organizations where they have very clearly said that out of our total workforce, this is reserved for a particular section, which obviously there has to be a reason if at all it falls in their format. But my personal view is talent is available, you know what you need, you should never be differentiating on the basis of these factors, who should be included, how do we define particularly the diversified workforce, people who are there, and if they fit in the pocket, they should just be hired and trained.
Interesting perspective, Dr. Ankita. While I was going through some studies which talked about women workforce in India, it also showed a downward trend in terms of women leaving the workforce as well uh, in the COVID times. So, what I'm just wondering is that, or maybe even Ashish, Dev, Sushil, all of us can, comment on this actually. Um, is it because you're finding that there are work life balance issues that especially women I'm talking about here, and when we say DNI, of course it could be PWDs and LGBTQs or even age groups as well, but right now just focusing on women talent here. I have seen that there are so many women who are wanting to get back to work, and many a times there could be policy issues also in organizations, even though there are a lot of programs around second careers, etc., right now in the corporates. But however, in the COVID times, we've seen people, women especially, stepping out of their jobs. What could be the possible trends that are coming out of it, even though organizations are becoming gender agnostic, and they're much more sensitive to the fact that they could actually leverage talent pools anywhere remotely, anywhere in the world actually. So why would we see a trend like that?
So I'll take that first. The two things that we've experienced is one is that there is a uh, indifferent amount of mental load that is there on women employees out of this forced work from home environment, right? That's something that's come to fore from many of our colleagues in different times, right? The other sort of point that sort of come in is an expectation that their mother-in-laws are more demanding now than ever, given that they are at home, and there is a differentiated expectation that they, they they do more at home, right? And in a situation where maids are getting difficult to get by, especially in the first 6 months when societies didn't permit them, right? The mental load is unbearable. I mean, and it is a serious issue, especially in three teams that I sort of manage HR for. This is an issue, and we're looking for interventions how we can work around them. And most of my colleagues are saying, Dave, can we get back to work? Right, so that we can have a balance of coming to work, concentrating in a very very focused manner, and otherwise this may not be everybody's case, but when you see quite a few folks coming in and telling you, you sort of start to believe that believe that this is the reality. And for HR folks to close their ears is probably not the best thing to do. Yeah, so those are two examples that I can share, if that helps.
Interesting. Yes, it is. So,
So,
Ashish, Sushil, any points from your end?
Karuna, so I think, if you look at another data which says, at the time of entry level, number is very high, especially women. Okay.
Yes.
Number equally to what is available in the talent pool, especially in the campus, university and
Yeah.
colleges, right? Before COVID, if you look at any data, pick up any data, it's all there on the Google. Almost 30 to 40% women dropping out in the mid career.
Mid careers. Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so the point which you are coming up, I think one is to drill down a little more in detail. What is the reason? Yes, one reason can be, okay, there are a lot of work which has come up in addition to the office work also. And it may happen that office work is also too much, because we as a man, most of us also feeling that there is a lot of time we are spending in the work, more than what we are supposed to. In addition to that, obviously women also taking care of XYZ, and I'm sure most of the husband also supporting also. I have seen women coming forward and saying, okay, there are the husband who are supporting and like this. So I think organization need to create an ecosystem and trust. Okay, boss, ladies, don't think like this. Okay, there are the many things we can take care of, especially in the India when there was a complete lockdown, and the family which is depend upon the maid, housemaid, they were struggling like anything, right? Yeah, who will take care of the kids, who will take care of the daily activities and all. So those are the issues which we were not ready. Perhaps this thing may settle down, Karuna and everyone,
Yeah.
after one or two incident. Okay, but at the same time, this community, which we say women community, need to ensure that, okay, they should not lose any hope. Don't give up. Okay, job is still there in the organization. There are the companies who are looking for women. It's just matter of, okay, you ensure that you are available in the market. Secondly, organization need to do a lot of marketing promotion. Ki guys, okay, we have XYZ not as a reservation percentage for the women, but we are equal employers. Simply nothing else.
And as how Dr. Ankita was talking about, that actually organizations are becoming gender agnostic, where uh, you know talent can be picked up from anywhere, and all of them are actually willing to work towards and contribute in their own ways.
And
uh,
Karuna, believe me, gig model has changed entire approach, and two things has taken the back seat. One is the DNA, which used to be on the top agenda of the any PPT of the CHRO or the leadership. Second is the generation XYZ, the new generation. Remember, we used to say, okay, our percentage hiring should be this much and that much. Today, with the gig model, I can recruit anybody from anywhere, because there are a lot of people available at the same cost who are the experienced people instead of fresher, where you put the people on the training. And also today, organization don't have that much of time. Equally, demand and supply is saying, okay, guys, talent is available, ready talent. What do you want to compromise? Do you want to pick up the ready one, campus, or do you want to pick up differently able? Do you want to pick up women? So there are a lot of options for leadership and HR too.
Interesting.
I look at the
Karuna,
internal data.
yeah.
And if at all I talk particularly about my organization, I have seen more than females leaving the organization, they have joined back. So earlier,
Mhm.
the constraint was that work from home is not allowed. We always wanted a full timer who is right there in the office working for 9 hours. And if any female would say that, you know what, I can work very efficiently, but I'd be available only for 5 hours, and we would say, it's
Yeah.
fine, but that won't fit in well. Now we are taking back females who were on maternity leave, and now they can work for 4 hours, and they were already employed with us, and we are giving them prorated salary, which is a fair deal. They
Very
said that they
interesting.
have work to do,
Very interesting.
and
Yeah.
whenever
Karuna, I have a very different opinion of this
Sure.
issue. So might be appearing little, I would say, in opposite direction with what Ashish, Dr. Ankita discussed.
Mm-hmm.
This issue from cultural mindset. Uh, I will quote one statement from a very senior profile person. I'm not against with gender or against XYZ kind of people, but what I have experienced, even if you see the hiring pattern of the industry, I would not say it is happening only in India. See, we are in HR fraternity, we are hiring managers also. But take example, leaving women or particularly female from this discussion, because we are talking about diversity and inclusion. I have hardly seen, I suppose take example of X person who is working as a head of HR in maybe pharmaceutical company, and now he is looking for assignment in any other unrelated industry. His CV is outrightly rejected. He might be having great credentials with him, but what is the logic? Business context. No one is ready to offer that kind of required training, though it is a kind of attitude. Anyone can learn anything if he is ready to learn something. So agility, flexibility, or learning capability or competency, or see, like I had said in the earlier also. So IT industry, yes, there are certain technical skills. Women's are definitely very good, great. But see, how many of us would have made food cooked at home during lockdown period? We are not considering the real issues why women are out from a job in such a huge number, because still in Indian culture they are supposed to cook, they are supposed to take care of their kids, they are supposed to take care of all household chores. There are hardly few people who can afford a maid or servant or any XYZ kind of support system. So that was the background. One senior bureaucrat was telling me कि सुशील, एक आदमी अगर नौकरी करता है तो 4 बच्चों का पेट पाल सकता है, but if a women start working, then so I will not go into that detail because it is a cultural mindset, cultural biases. So D and I, or maybe this is a global trend, because see, in UK, US, yes, in Russia, women are at the top position, but in India, except to uh, Sonia Gandhi or Indira Gandhi, still Priyanka Gandhi is not able to take that seat. Mayawati, hardly you will find few people at the helm. See, now just to get a best place to work for or great organization, or since Anand Mahindra has started talking about transgender or XYZ gender, but this was practiced in Mughal Kal also. So why we are not referring Mughal Kal? See, it's all just to create sensation, sensitivity, but we are not focusing on the core issue. Why male childs are not given cooking education at home? They are there just to be with father and spend time with friends, and female child are supposed to be at home. Might be security is not there, so many issues are there. So D and I concept is a very serious issue. Unless and until we are able to change the mindset of the country, it can happen at the discussion level only, but the real output or the changes is not going to be visible. See, we cannot see IT industry still in army. They have recently started offering commission to the women's officer. So there are jobs which cannot be performed by girls. We have to accept the fact. If we are not ready to accept, okay, we have a gender free organization, then induct me as a head of HR in any IT organization. Might be 5 years down the line or 10 years, you will not find in my CV I have worked in IT organization or maybe in pharmaceutical. So that is already there. It is just a matter, uh, just for the sake of telling you yes, it should happen, or like uh, that should be the ideal approach. So there are two approaches: one ideal and then practical. So right, it will take a lot time. Then
Yeah. So obviously changes are taking place. I just like to add one line here, Karuna. More than mindset, it is the ecosystem which has to be developed by the organization, society, and each one of us. Once ecosystem is there, mindset will be easily changed, because I will look for an option. If an option is available, I will definitely think. Maybe second time I can take the decision and say, okay, go ahead. I can take the simple example of that the student population, student community. In before 10 years, we used to think about, what about the food of student? Your parents used to think about it, right? Yeah. Today, if you talk to any student and they will say, don't worry, we have Swiggy and Zomato. Correct.
Yes.
So tomorrow, if you talk about the women community, how they can come back to the workforce, there has to be 2-3 options available always. Okay, don't worry. Like in the company, there was the system where you can keep your child, right? You can bring your child at the organization and they will take care. That was the ecosystem developed. So that was helping almost 5% of the women population. Do we have those kind of ecosystem in the society as well? If yes, then probably this and scenario is being changed. I think it's taking little more time, but yes, it is happening.
Ashish
I
ji, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Chennai doesn't only represent the country. So Dr.
true.
Ankita will say yes to my thought. We visited Sambalpur. So there they are having big industries, but people even from IIM Sambalpurs were not ready to join those big manufacturing hubs. Everyone is just trying to migrate to Mumbai. There, Pizza Hut, Zomato, Swiggy is available, but in Orissa, Raigad, Sambalpur, major industrial hub contributing to the mineral sources, you will not find
And I think I've been able to touch upon a very interesting topic where we can do another panel discussion, and that would be so meaningful. I would say it's going to be really interesting to get so much of inputs and insights from all of you on this. And considering that we have some limited time available today, and this is a very interesting topic which I love to talk about also, DNI and the concepts. India is so diverse. Metro cities would have such amazing ecosystems available. However, when you go to rural locations, it could be so different for us to really experience from. So interesting topic, I must say. But let us kind of consider it from a point that whatever conversation we've had today, let's look at some questions from the audience in the next 7-8 minutes. And I'm sure Murli and Ankita and all of them would absolutely help us out, get together and do another such kind of panel discussion, because this is going to be really amazing to hear your views on that.
That would be amazing, actually, Karna. Thanks for that. The thing is, guys, we are already exceeded our time. So I would suggest, in case from the audience, in case you have any questions for anything, you need to connect with the leaders for today's panel discussion. I'm sure all of them will be more than happy to connect with you over their LinkedIn profile. So if you want to check out their LinkedIn profile, all the details are available on our Change in page. So you can just maybe start having a conversation with them in terms of your questions or anything that you want to clarify. But on that note, I just want to thank everybody for attending today's session and bringing out some really interesting points, like, some really conflicting, interesting points. But yeah, that actually gives us a point of view that, in a way that we haven't thought about it before. So thank you so much
Yes.
for that. And Karuna, thank you for moderating this session so effortlessly and bringing out such
Thank
interesting
you.
discussions. Thank you so much.
Even though the technology has not been supporting me today,
I know.
but I'm just trying to
No,
do my
that
best.
is something that we really can't help with. But otherwise, I think it was a flawless discussion. Absolutely no
Yeah,
problem.
I love the inputs, and thank you, Ashish, Dev, Sushil, Dr. Ankita, and especially the Shenzhen team for helping me do that. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
bringing
much,
all of us
everybody.
together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye,
Bye.
Murli.